Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, your host here on my teeny tiny little podcast called The True Crime Grapevine. And this is my live that I do weekly. So I have a Moscow Mule here. Grab whatever you're drinking, take a sip. Let's get ready for what's happened in the last 24 hours. So today's Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We have two major cases to update you on. One is a happy case. We actually have a happy ending. Yay! This is the Charlotte Senna case from Saratoga, New York. We have a few updates on the who, what, where, when, and maybe a why. And we'll be getting more updates, but we've got some facts. Okay, we also have a trial that started today for Timothy Ferrider. This was a case that I believe I covered right when I started my podcast in February of 2022, because it was 2222 when I started this YouTube channel. And it was about a boy who was found in Jupiter, Florida, who had been living in an 8x8 like bunker room in the family's garage. And now that the trial's coming out, we're hearing more, and we got a little preview as to what the defense is going to say. And I think the guy should have taken the plea deal. Just my opinion. Allegedly. Don't sue me. All right. So, and if you want, maybe at the end, I'll tell you, there's a little bit more going on with the Susan Morphew case. Just some interesting details about where her remains were found and what it might mean for whomever. We don't know. Maybe some bear did it, but little ideas about why that spot was a very sneaky spot and why she wasn't found for so long. And it's just kind of a miracle she was. All right. So again, take a drink. A little bit parched. Really hot where I am. It's supposed to be hot for another couple days, and then we're going to get a big cool down. So I guess this is Indian summer. And it'll be cool down right before the United States has its, I think annually there's a solar, there's one is an annual one. So there's a solar path, and where I am near the Great Lakes is not in the path of totality, this one. Now there's a big one coming up there's going to be a total eclipse in April. But this isn't an astrological podcast. So anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about weather and astrology, or not astrology. Oh, anyway. All right. Since I don't edit, you guys get to hear my stream of consciousness. Woohoo! Yeah, like and subscribe if you're up for some stream of consciousness true crime. Maybe that's what I should have called it. All right. So the Charlotte Senna update. There was a suspect named this morning. His name is 46-year-old Craig N. Ross Jr. from a nearby town, and had owned property 14,000 feet from the Senna's family home. I don't think that was property upon which he was found, but it's interesting that he owned a piece of property close to Charlotte's house. Now, Charlotte wasn't at home when she was kidnapped, and that's what the charging is. It's a felony 1, which is the most serious kidnapping charge, when she was at the Morrow Lake in Saratoga, New York. That was 17 miles from where they lived. So not too far away. I mean, but not right where she lived. So we don't know if this man saw her at home because he had property close to their house and targeted her and watched her and then followed the family up there, maybe watched for the day. What we do know is that the FBI came in to help the state police. So she was taken Saturday night. Sunday, the state police and state equivalent of the SWAT team were looking around. Then they called in the FBI, who came in Monday. They immediately started doing their cellular analysis and pings. So who was in that area, what cell phones were in that area around the time that Charlotte went missing, around 6:15 on Saturday night. But also between Sunday and Monday, there was a letter placed in the home mailbox of the Senna family. That piece of mail was from the kidnapper, and it was a ransom demand for money. The house was being, I don't know if it was watched 24/7, but they were having people check out the house at least every so often. They found the letter, because it doesn't sound like they fouled him, but maybe they did, and they're just not saying. But publicly, we know that on the letter there were fingerprints, and the fingerprints matched a 1999 fingerprint in their database from a DUI case, which was Mr. Craig and Ross, 46, of the area. So they went to where his address was, which was he was living on his mother's property in a camper behind. So they somehow early Monday found that this letter had been placed there at 4:30. Probably I'm assuming maybe they were watching it through a camera, and then somebody was reviewing the film and saw not long after that. From the fingerprints, and probably also from other data like the car, they were able to track him to this house. And by 2:00 in the afternoon, I believe, they had gotten a location for Charlotte. I guess the man did resist arrest, which sounds like he got bashed in the face, probably because he fought a little bit. They found Charlotte in this camper that was behind Mr. Ross's mother's home on her property, and Charlotte was found in a cabinet, they said. So I don't know, but she was 9 years old and not quite 5 feet tall. So I'm thinking to put her in a cabinet. If you've ever been in a camper, there's usually like a skinny cabinet in the galley area where there's if there's a cooking area, like next to the bathroom, and there's like a storage cabinet that's really skinny, but you could probably shove a little kid in there. So that's where I'm assuming. That is my assumption. That is not something I know. They just said she was found in a cabinet unharmed. Now, he did elicit a ransom. So hopefully he took her for money. That would be great. That would mean there hopefully was no SA involved. They did take Charlotte to a hospital, and then she was reunited with her parents. We found out she has not had a forensic interview yet. And we'll talk about forensic interviews in the next story, because there's a lot of those. But yeah, he is charged with kidnapping 1. He supposedly did it to, as they said, compel the payment of monies for ransom, which is, old school. The fact he did a handwritten letter. I don't know. It's going to be interesting when we find out the contents of that letter. Like, where was he going to have this dropped off? How was he not going to be caught? It doesn't seem like it was super well thought out. So I'm assuming not the best plan, obviously. Although there does seem to be, since he had property that was owned that was within 1,400, so within less than 2,000 feet from her family's home. Seems like he may have watched them go up to, the lake. We don't know. But we will find out more. His prelim is October 6th. That's this Friday. So I will report back to you on Friday. More information. But good to know that it seems, hopefully, that she wasn't hurt otherwise than super very scared. And she did know she was being rescued by the police. They said she wasn't fearful. She was very happy. She understood that's who was coming in to get her. So case number 2. I'm going to need a drink for this one. This is horrific. We always say when we have cases in which a child is hurt, that when there's a religious component, so far a lot of it has been the Mormons, but it's not always the Mormons, right? This happens to be a very devout Catholic man. It's we don't know if religion will play into this person's excuse. So there was Tim and Tracy, a mother and father, Fearter, in Jupiter, Florida. They lived in a very fancy subdivision called Egret Landing. Very, very well-to-do in West Palm Beach area. So on January of 2022, they had called the police because their adopted son, and I don't know if they said our adopted son, but he is of Vietnamese descent. So maybe they said because, he's missing. I don't know if they said specifically, use the descriptor adoptive. But I'm trying to find out if the rest of their 4 children are adoptive or if it was only this one boy. So he was 14 years old and missing. They had called, but also in a forensic interview, one of the sisters said that, I believe it was the mom, because in the Daily Mail at the time in 2022, they had, I think it was in June, they had FOIA'd the warrant for their arrest, and a lot of the names were redacted, but it seemed to be the mom's name. Took the girls to a softball tournament. Why he was missing over the weekend? Because they reported him missing, but yeah, he seems to have run away. So it doesn't seem like they were super concerned, but probably after the weekend, I think he went missing on Friday, and they called the police Sunday. By Monday, he had turned up outside his school. I believe it's the timeline, where he told police, please arrest me. I don't want to go back there. I can't go back there. They make me live in this box, and I never get to hardly get out, and I get fed scraps from the family. He has to go to the bathroom. If he has to go to the bathroom during the hours, he's basically stuck in there except when he was in school. And once he tried to get chocolate and a cookie, and he got punished for wanting extra food and had to go out and do yard work. Now, this is southern Florida on the Atlantic side, but it's not like it's hot there a lot of the time. It doesn't say if it was air conditioned. Anyways, so he was saying he was stuck in this box, and please arrest me. I don't want to go back. He's this 14-year-old. So they go to the family's home. I think before they found him that day, when they went into the family home, they wanted to see, well, can we look in his bedroom? He's missing. Can we look in his bedroom to see if there's any clues there? And the parents were hesitant to let them in. And then when they eventually did let them in, the mom tried to say that this room right off the front hallway, which obviously was like a baby room that had a crib and stuff and was painted like a baby color. He sometimes sleeps in here with his brother. I'm like, what? We couldn't find any other rooms in the house. And then eventually she showed them this 8x8 structure in their garage. So maybe it was air conditioned. It's unclear. That had a doorknob on the outside that locked from the outside, that had a light that you can only turn on and off from the outside. And the inside, it was this plain drywall, and it was the garage floor, but there was partially some indoor-outdoor carpeting down there, and there was a mattress and box spring on the floor, and there was a Ring camera up in the corner of the room. And they're like, oh, and a desk, because, got to give the kid a desk, right? Don't want to be cruel, with some kids' books on it. And they're like, what is this? And he sometimes will stay in here, and there was a orange Home Depot bucket in there, which the child later during his forensic interview said that he had to use that orange Home Depot, like a 5-gallon bucket. That was his toilet that he had to go throw out. He was saying that he didn't want to go back there because he had to spend hours in there. He wasn't allowed to be in the regular house except for, like, he could come in for meals, breakfast, but lots of times he got the scraps from the leftovers from the family. I mean, it just sounds like Cinderella, but with a boy. Now, they went in and took the other 3 children out of the house. And at the time in 2022, I believe there was a 3-year-old or two, almost 3-year-old little boy and 2 sisters. And it's unclear if they were adopted or biological. But this one sister was a year younger than him, and one sister was 2 years older than him. So they obviously had an older girl. They adopted him, and he's only a year within this other girl. So I don't know if they got pregnant while they were trying to adopt. They adopted him when he was 17 months old. So almost 2, not quite, a year and a half, from Vietnam. Now, the girls corroborated what he said, that, yeah, he got in trouble a lot. Yes, he spent most of his time in this room when he wasn't, like, had to do yard work when he was in trouble. Or, that's where he did his schoolwork. And when he wasn't in school, he was mostly in that room. That they did hear some bangs and muffled thumps. So he said his dad grabbed him by his neck and threw him up against the wall, would beat him with a jump rope, would beat him with like a belt. He was very harshly treated. Now, they had moved to this house in Jupiter 4 months before this, I believe. So it was February. In December, a man had made December 2021, had made a complaint saying that he thought it was strange. He had been asked to build this room, an 8x8 room in a garage. He had 3 days to do it. And the guy wanted him to cut, it was like 4 walls, a roof. He wanted him to put on a handle, but he wanted it to be, and he wanted the light from the outside, and then he wanted the handle, the lock, reversed. And he said at that point, he's like, there's only one reason you reverse a lock. He's like, it's a cage for somebody. That's not, the guy was trying to say it was an office. So these police in this warrant that you can find on the Daily Mail, they described that they went to the previous house. So they had lived in 2020, they were living in Arizona, and we don't know a lot about their Arizona house, except the boy said he had a garage room there too. But he also had there was a garage room in their other Florida house that they bought in 2014. So somehow they lived, I don't know how many years they lived there, maybe till 2016. Then they moved. Somehow they moved, maybe 2017, they moved to Arizona. And then they moved back to Florida, the same basic area. So these police in 2022 went to look at their 2014 house. And they talked to the owner, who said, when we moved in, I think there had been a new even owner, but they gave them the name of the first owner. And they said, we had to tear out, there was like this bonus room, but it wasn't really much of a bonus room. It was kind of this weird room, same description. And they said when they bought the house, it had like a little bed in it, a little child's bed. So this child, he's 14 now. If you go back to 2014, he was at least around 9 or so when this started, which is, you guys. And then the family was like, well, we had to keep him away from the baby because they had this 3-year-old baby, but they had a room in the house that they bought in 2014. So it wasn't just for the 3-year-old baby. That's a lie. But they're like, oh, we were worried because he was violent. He was so horribly violent. He lashed out and he cursed and he was rude. And I don't know, maybe Jody Hillebrand saw him when they were in Arizona. Who knows what they thought or what a kid could do. But you might lock them. Let's say you lock them in their own room, which is bad enough. Because by the way, if you lock a kid from the outside, if you do it at night, that is considered endangerment. You know why? Because locking a kid in a room when you're asleep too, there could be a fire and they can't get out of their room. So, you're really not supposed to put locks on the outside of the doors, but if you're doing like a timeout for 15 minutes or whatever, you got to make sure that, one, it's like a little hook and eye that the kid could eventually maybe push out if in an emergency. But two, you can only use it for very small amounts of time. Otherwise, it's considered like imprisonment. But why didn't they just lock him in his room? They had a huge, rich house. And instead, they kept building this room away from them and making him piss and pee in a bucket. That is not normal. And eat the scraps. That is like Cinderella shit. And they said he acted bad because he had reactive attachment disorder. And I'm like, or did you cause that? Attachment disorder is when a child can't attach, because that happened a lot in like Romanian and Russian orphanages when there were so many children to be adopted that they were left all alone. And they became like they weren't socialized, and it affected their ability to attach. Now, this child came from Vietnam, and I haven't heard a lot of Vietnamese children having attachment disorder. So I don't know if this was an excuse they made at some certain point. I don't know. He was their only boy for the longest time. I don't know if the other kids were biological and he was the only adopted kid. I don't know what the heck is wrong with these people, but the dad is going on trial first, and then the mom will go on trial second. They got out on a $50,000 bond. Their children, I believe, are still in the system, taken away from them, which they should never have children because of horrible people. Anyway, today they started, it says it's a 6 jury. I don't know why there's only 6 people. It must have something to do with the type of like family court or something. But the judge heard open statements, and right away the defense was like, oh, we'd like to show this video. And right away the state was like, yeah, no, there's no relevance to this. They're trying to prejudice the jury into thinking like, see this great family, because I guess even when it was first happening, they found out like on her Facebook, she always put him in pictures. You know what I mean? They really played it up like they were one big happy family, except for that little room, which I think shows even more abuse because they knew what they were doing. So they made sure to include him in all their holiday pictures. But apparently, he probably, it's just unbelievable. When they went into his house, the police noticeably said they couldn't find any of his clothes in the house. They could find there wasn't a bedroom that would be associated with a boy that age. There were no toys associated with a boy that age. Remember, he had an older sister and a sister right next to his age. No boy toys, only girl stuff and the infant one, and then that scary garage room. So the fact that she took pictures, the state was like, that has nothing to do with it. And then the defense attorney kept trying to explain, well, yeah, but how it's not really character evidence, but how is the jury going to see like the other side to what kind of parents they were? And the judge had to slowly explain it to this woman like she was a 5-year-old. He's like, look, you can take a picture and you can take a little video of you playing with a kid. But if you lock them up for 18 hours, that's not like, it doesn't even out. Oh, well, I'm nice, but I committed this crime. It's the crime we're here about. That's what's relevant. Do you have something, it would have to show like him in a luxurious bedroom. And then he only went to this, like, no, you're just wanting to show the outward happy family. And that's not what this case is about. Is it relevant? So he said he watched the video, came back and said, no, that's not coming in. So it did not come in. And I believe there was one witness today, which was one of the officers. So you guys, this is a tough one. The little boy, when he ran away, I mean, he was 14 when he ran away, but if this had been happening since 2014-ish, I mean, he was a child when this started. He was adopted. He looks like he was the only white child person in the whole entire family. Then they get, it just seems so sad. And he said, and nobody loves me. That's this pitiful. God, right there makes me want to, whatever. I don't think they understand. So that Tim was offered a plea deal last week. He was offered a plea deal that he would get 2 years in jail. And then we know with good, probably be even less, and 5 years probation. And he's not taking it. And you know what he's up for? 40 years. And, oh, I didn't tell you the best part. In the affidavit, they found the Ring camera. These sickos, they said they were watching him, but they kept the footage. There were thousands of hours of Ring cam footage in his little room of him being beaten, hit, sworn at, being in the dark for hours. It's disgusting. I'm glad you didn't take the deal. Sorry. That's just my opinion. But, he's innocent until proven guilty. Sorry. All right. That's about it. The only thing about the Susan Morphew case, which I found kind of interesting, is that if you look at where we now know all those extra officers were looking and sifting where the grave site was, which makes me feel good that they know where the grave was, because they said scattered bones. Well, if you just find scattered bones and assume, like, to know that they were in a shallow grave, I hope that means that they found some fabric or something that was like half in and half out of that shallow grave, because they knew where to look and they were sifting through that dirt. That road is County Road R, which is like 2.5 miles south out of Moffett. It also seems, if you look on a map, to be included right where a wildlife. So there's the Great Dunes National Park way over to the east, so like from that area. But right next to the Great National Sand Dune Park is a Baca Wildlife Refuge, National Refuge. And part of it goes right over County Road 17 and right underneath, about 2 miles south of, it looks right in the area. So not only was County Road R a dirt road, that was a dead end road where people weren't likely to go down. Maybe it was a dead end road too, because it was also seems to be like the very, very edge of this wildlife preserve. And and anybody who hunts bear would know you're not allowed to hunt within a wildlife preserve. So yeah, you want to make sure nobody would go in an area. Pick a out of the way dead end road that's south of any near town. So nobody's going to be going right past it often to go up to Poncha Springs because it's south of Moffett. And yeah, make sure it's part of a wildlife refuge. So, no one's going to be trying to, they won't be able to dig there or even hunt there. So probably nobody would go there for a very long time, right? Unless some woman named Edna goes missing from Sasquatch area. There's the Saguache County, but there's also a town, Saguache. And I believe that is northeast of Moffett, but it is in the general area. And that's why they were looking in that area for Edna, because she was missing from the Saguache area, not actually Moffett, but around all that. So thank goodness for Edna. Whatever has happened to her, they think she had a medical emergency. They were concerned about her status because of her medical conditions, which weren't related. But Barry Morphew's attorney is trying to say, well, how many dead bodies are there out there? Suzanne's not the only one. There must be a serial killer. Well, Edna was 55. And if you saw a picture of her, no offense, it's not the same victimology as Suzanne. And she was thought to walk off alone. They knew she was missing. They knew she had walked off. The other body that they found out there was way north of there in the foothills of the mountains, about halfway from Salida to Moffett. And that was the James Montoya, who was in a bar in Lakewood a suburb of Denver. And he was 3 hours away from. So obviously something in the bar went awry. So neither of those cases have anything to do with Suzanne's case. And then Iris had one other name. I don't know. Iris is reaching. Oh, she is reaching for any reason not to believe that Suzanne Morphew, whose phone stopped doing anything, zero activity after 2:30 afternoon Saturday, forever, never had any activity after that. Its last ping, so it was turned on and roaming for a second at 4:30 a.m., probably right before somebody got rid of it, Sunday. But from Saturday afternoon, right after she sent a selfie to her boyfriend and her husband had said, "Hey, are you there? I'm coming home." After that, nothing, ever. So the only person that admittedly was around Suzanne Morphew from Saturday 2:30 p.m. to Sunday morning at 4:30, he said he left the house at 5. Yeah, Barry was the only one. And it was during high COVID lockdown. So people weren't all driving around doing stuff. And yeah, she did not go biking, Barry. She didn't. She didn't take her sunglasses. She didn't take her water bottle that she always took. She didn't check her phone to see what the weather was like. She didn't text anybody when she woke up. She never used her phone from 2:30 afternoon. And only one person ate on a plate Saturday night in your house, Barry. One person, Barry. And you tried to play it off like, oh, you and your loving wife shared a loving, sexy meal and had sex that night, which is really weird if you had sex with her after what happened. I don't know. Maybe that was your thing, but just my opinion, just allegedly. God, Iris, I don't even know why you'd want to be with him. You wouldn't last long. He'd get mad with you, and then you'd end up in the desert taking a dirt nap. Just, my opinion. Just supposition. What do I know, right? But I do know her phone stopped working at 2:30 and never was worked on, used. No app was open. No text was sent. Nothing after she texted her boyfriend and he tried to contact her again and he got zero. Anyways, so yeah, I don't think it was a serial killer working in the Salida mountains range during COVID. And I don't think Suzanne was ever in a bar in Lakewood. And yeah, I don't think she knew Edna. Don't think there's any coincidence. I just think that area is really great for getting rid of bodies because people don't go there much. And I think that in early May, up in the mountains near Salida, it was really hard. You might even, I don't know, try to dig a hole and break your blade, even maybe, because it was just too damn frozen. So instead, then you have to, replace that blade and then hurry up and that night maybe go down to a lower elevation into an area that's a wildlife refuge that no one's going to go on a dead-end road. Quick, dig. Now you don't have much time, though, because you had to replace your blade Saturday. You had a lot going on. Anyways, maybe. It's over 30 minutes, guys. I will see you tomorrow night. And it's good that Charlotte got found alive. And hopefully nothing happened to her. She's got an adventure to tell. Maybe she'll write a book as a grown-up. All right. Bye.